the class empties out and like 40, 50 just like gorgeous
Just
women
heat.
pour out of that gym.
Heat pours out of
and
there.
I'm
huh?
like, oh, what? I was like, my boy's he's got baddies walking out. He's like saying he's taking pictures with them, and I'm like, this is my first time meeting my boy,
Right.
and he doesn't work for the company anymore, but he was like the guy, you know.
Think of those names. That's what you're thinking of, and that's kind of where you're seeing them kind of carve
Yeah.
their lane out.
So I was like, that's not my space. Like
Yeah.
I don't do that, and I know you guys are reaching out to me because you have a studio in mind of opening up in LA.
Right.
And I was like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
What's up, coaches? Welcome to Your Coach's Coach. I am your host, Coach Justin Blackwell. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a NASM certified personal trainer, a boxing coach, as well as a father of two, based out here in Los Angeles, California. I created this podcast to help you gain insight on how successful coaches, both established and up and coming, have navigated and continue to navigate their world of sports, fitness, and movement. You're going to hear some really raw stories and some really incredible journeys on this podcast, and I hope you find this podcast valuable, useful, and entertaining. If you do, please like, subscribe, and share. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode.
So first of all, thank you, sir, for showing up.
No,
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Listen,
man.
Thank you, man. It's an honor, bro.
Thank you, man. But listen, to those listening, to those tuning in, some of you may know this gentleman already. I think a lot of people from our world do. But I guess let me take it back because we were just kind of talking about that. We're talking like maybe 2017-ish, maybe a little bit before that. I'm working at a gym on the east side, right, northeast of Los Angeles, over in Eagle Rock. And a coach up there who we both know, Coach Tad, comes up to me and listen, Tad was at our gym, one of the better mid holders. You know what I mean? The rest of us were all pretty basic. We kind of did, the basic stuff. But he says, man, I'm trying to get like this coach right here. You know what I'm saying? In terms of his pad work, his mitt work. And he shows me AJ's Instagram, which at the time, and AJ was AJ was putting up numbers on Instagram that I didn't even know were possible at the time in terms of like views and stuff. You know what I mean? But anyways, that's but a fraction of what you do, man. You've also, been a founding coach. You've also done things digitally for Lululemon, kind of the whole nine. So anyways, it's an honor to have you, brother. Like, honestly, I really appreciate you coming through, saying yes to this, you know what I mean? Because I know you're a busy man. Time is money in our world. So I appreciate that. But, man, I'm honored to have you on, bro.
That's crazy, man. That's quite the intro, my boy. I don't deserve that much credit. I swear. Like, hey, but I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, man. So let's start at the beginning, okay? Because as I told you kind of through like our talks, our chats, the purpose of this podcast is ultimately, to help coaches, right? Navigate this industry, get better at their craft, really just provide any insight, right? I got a chance in the last couple of years to really travel the country, meet with a lot of coaches, which I'm sure you did as well, and we'll probably touch base on that. But I always see those one or two coaches that are just kind of an inch away from like really making their class pop or their private business pop. And so that's what today is all about. But before we even get there, I want for those of the people who don't know you, I want them to understand a little bit about who you are. So I know you're an LA boy.
Yes, sir.
Just like me.
Born
you know what I'm saying?
That's
Talk
right.
to me a little bit. Who was AJ as a child, man? Where did you grow up in LA? How did you come up? What was life like, man?
So it's funny, people. I'm glad you like phrased it like that, because typically people from LA are like, "Hey, where you from?" And you think like, "Yo, that's a trick question." What you mean, bro?
Yeah. What are you really asking?
Yeah, in a city full of transplants, you're like, "What do you mean? Where you from?" Hold on, you start getting aggressive. No, but I'm from West LA, Santa Monica to be exact.
Okay.
The Four Corners is what they call it. So I grew up in a predominantly Mexican neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I'm from the west side of Los Angeles, so we got like just the same amount of surfers as we did like, taggers and gangbangers and like just regular folks that lived in the city, because it's very gentrified now compared to when I was growing up.
That's right.
As most other neighborhoods are.
Yep.
I grew up on the west side. It was cool. It was a melting pot of every culture you could find. I had like in my personal friend group, like, white boys. I had a couple black homies. I had a couple homies that were Persian. I had a couple homies that were Asian. It's like, damn, man, it's really a melting pot.
Yeah.
So I
That's
got
really
exposed.
the LA experience, though, when
Exactly.
you really think about it, right?
Facts.
Yep.
So, man, I got exposed to culturally like such a huge, network of different types of people from all walks of life, blue collar, white collar, races, all of it was there. So, I'm really happy that I was able to come up that way.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've come across some people that haven't. And
This is very true.
yeah. So growing up in LA, man, it's truly a blessing to be around, so many different cultures and, different walks of life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I grew up in West LA, played sports. I went to school, but like, I just went to school, honestly, just because, like, my sister was really smart. And I have so that's the thing. I have a twin sister. People don't know.
What? We're just finding out. Okay,
Yeah,
I feel
so
like we were going to find out
breaking
some new stuff today. Yeah, twin sister, never knew.
Twin sister, she's a lot smarter than me. So she was always really good in school. And, both of our parents, they didn't finish school. I mean, they went to high school and got their diplomas, but they didn't go to college or anything. So they're both blue-collar individuals. She was always adamant about, like, staying in school. She was, honor roll student, like bilingual, speaks better Spanish than I do.
Right.
And went the whole yard. She's a grad student, graduated. And yeah, that wasn't my path. So
Right.
I was just in school to play sports.
Right. What'd you play?
I played football, ran track.
Okay. What position and what position? What
So
events?
I was a free safety. Initially, I was in my freshman year, is the first year I put on pads, and I was a linebacker.
Okay.
But that was when everybody was still like not hitting their growth spurt yet.
Right.
So by the time I became a sophomore, like, you a little too small to be playing linebacker, my boy. But I like to hit people.
Right.
So I mean, I didn't like to run routes or like be an offensive playbook, especially from the coaching staff that we had. Like my first 3 years of high school.
Yeah.
Really confused me.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? I just want to play defense.
Right.
So I moved to free safety, and I was still able to hit people. I had to play catch up when it came to being a defensive back, because now I got to deal with reading the whole field as opposed to just dealing with like the certain gap I'm in control over, a receiver that comes up the middle, up the seam.
Yeah.
So yeah, football was fun for me. I got to hit people and not get in trouble.
Okay.
So I didn't mind being a scrappy individual and like getting a little scuffles here and there.
Yeah, there's always the football players, man, that want to scrap the most. That's what.
I don't know if I got a chip on my shoulder or something, but like I don't know. I didn't get in too many fights, to be honest. Like I really got along with most people.
Yeah,
I was
for
even
sure.
like the homecoming king in my high school.
Oh
Yeah, so,
okay. I don't know. That don't surprise me though, bro. I just I feel like
Politic is cool, bro. I could get around and literally it's a
Yeah.
melting pot of people I grew up in LA.
Yeah.
So I feel like I could walk into any room and get along with any individual.
that's a valuable skill.
Yeah,
man.
So being very personable was something that was easy for me. And my father's he works in hotels.
Okay.
So he's really good at the whole hospitality thing.
Right.
And so whenever I meet people, I think like that rubs off on me a little bit.
Okay. So high school, homecoming king. It sounds like played sports. Boxing. Talk to at what stage did that start? Was that in high school or was that like later? in high school?
No, after high school. It's funny. I was just having a conversation with my boy who introduced me to boxing. I got to dabble in boxing, kind of. My dad always had a heavy bag up in either the garage or the backyard.
Yeah.
Gloves, everything. And he wasn't a boxer himself, but he's from Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico.
Right.
And Mexicans love boxing.
Oh, yeah.
So that was whether it was in the gym or not, boxing was always around.
Right.
But I didn't really get introduced to it till I think one of my friends took me to like a boxing class at a kickboxing studio. Maybe took a couple classes, and then after high school is when I got into boxing.
Okay.
So there was a gym called Iron in Santa Monica. And my friend Leon, who owns Gloveworks, he
Shout out Leon.
Yeah, shout out to Leon.
That's right.
He hit me up and a couple other of my homies that played football with me, and he's like, "Yeah, man, I play football at Temple, and I'm trying to get this whole boxing thing going because I trained with the Mayweathers, got a couple amateur fights, and I'm opening up a gym here, and I want people that are like me to be a part of it, and I really want to be a part of the community." And he did his outreach, and a lot of the homies from the football team that already graduated that were still yearning to like kind of have that community aspect of training or working out, found it in boxing. None of us were good, we were all green.
Yeah.
But we came in and we trained hard, and that was my first time really hitting mids, hitting the bag, shadow boxing, all that.
Yeah.
And then
What year was this, if you don't mind me asking?
this must have been like 2010 or 11.
Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
2010, 2011, well over a decade ago. And I came in, sporadically, because this was also like I entered the workforce pretty early. Like I didn't even think about going to college.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. So I had a good time over there, man. That was my first time like really seeing like some serious athletes. There's a couple people that were former boxers themselves that were training out of there and teaching out of there. So, it's kind of like my incubation period for being a boxer.
Okay, let's take it back a little bit because you said you entered the workforce pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Which I did as well.
Yeah.
Fresh out of high school, I went to go work. So I understand that journey. But talk to me a little bit about that time period of like life for you, because this is obviously pre-AJ as we may know you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what was that piece of the life like?
Well, it's man, I would say I was a lucky guy because I didn't really have any skills in anything besides, partying and being somebody who was well liked by my peers.
Right.
A family friend had a construction company, and one of my older brothers, every year he'd come back from college, he would, be an apprentice under his construction company and would just like come in and like work through the summers and make some money.
Right.
And I was like, yo, if my boy Gunner can do that, like I could do it too. Like
That's right.
I was begging. I was like, hey man, when are you gonna bring me onto the construction side, bro? And like I graduated a year before his daughter did, but she was like a family friend, and the whole community was like really tight.
Right.
But I kept asking him whenever I would hang out, or like, I would ask his daughter, like, hey, tell your dad to bring me onto the job site. I just didn't have anything better to do.
Right.
And, I tried to apply at a few other, like, jobs and, like, just, like, work at the supermarket, bagging groceries or something.
Yeah.
And even though those jobs were turning me down, I was like, yo, what? You're not going to hire me? Like, I'm the perfect candidate. I'll take $8 an hour and I'll work for you.
Right.
So like, he was one day he called me. It was like I remember he called me at night. It was during the summer, and I maybe graduated like 3 months prior to this.
Okay.
And he called me. He's like, hey man, what are you doing tomorrow morning? I was like, well, I don't know, nothing, dude. I'm just enjoying life. I just graduated high school. Yeah, same thing I did yesterday. I'm probably going to smoke some weed with the homies and go to the beach, or I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah, and he was like, you want to come to the job site? I was like, I don't know. I don't have any equipment. I don't have any tools. Like, he's like, just bring, a pair of sneakers that you're going to be able to move around in, and I'll take you with me. And I was excited. I told my mom. She was like, no way. Are you serious? Oh, my God. And I was like, man, this is a blessing. So anyways, that was my first time going to a job site for a construction company. Had no idea what I was doing. So I didn't realize I was even going to do it for as long as I did.
Yeah.
I ended up doing it for about 4 years.
Oh, snap. Okay.
Yeah, so, I really got, to harness my skills as an apprentice carpenter. I did plumbing, did a little bit of landscaping, mostly pouring concrete for foundation work for new houses. And,
Yeah, but listen, that lets me know that you're a man that's always going to have a gig if you need it. You know what I'm saying? Like those hard skills people don't have anymore.
Yeah, so definitely a blue collar individual, and I didn't really have a choice. So what was I gonna do? Like join the military or something? Like that could have been
that
an
was
option.
always an option.
I was looking. I was like, oh, man, this might be the thing. I don't know, but I knew I wasn't gonna go to college.
Yeah,
it wasn't gonna happen for me.
Yeah, my pops tried to get me into the military actually, just because he didn't know what I was gonna do. He was like, listen, it's not looking good for you. You know what I mean? Like he was like, maybe you should think about joining. Either.
It's scary, man, because all my peers were going to school. Like everybody else I played football with or playing football at colleges, and I'm like, I was getting recruited by like the community colleges because they knew I didn't have the grades. Like, oh, why don't you come play for us? So I got a call from Santa Monica College, the coaching staff in Santa Barbara, the coaching staff at Pierce. I was like, man, like that's kind of sad, bro. Like, I was like, I can't make it to a 4-year university. It was like, I don't know, I just didn't really see a path for football. I wasn't that passionate about it. So construction was the way to go.
What was did you have a passion at that point? Like
I had a passion for lining up on the line of scrimmage with my boys.
Right.
All the guys that I grew up with.
The team.
Yeah, and like you go against the boys from the other neighborhood, and like, from the guys from like an hour away from us, like we're going to go head up with them, put on the shoulder pads and the helmet, we're going to see what's up.
Yeah.
And like, we weren't like that good, but like, there was something about that camaraderie that kept me around, and without it, I probably wouldn't like even finished high school.
I feel you. And I asked because like back when I think I graduated before you.
Okay.
I graduated in 03. So
that's a little bit before me.
Yeah. So back then everybody wanted to be in hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So that took everybody out of high school. If you didn't go to college, you was trying to do something in music. In LA. So that's why I was asking if there was anything else like beyond that. But it sounds like you just kind of.
Oh, you know what, man? I had like a brief stint. I don't tell nobody this, but like my boy, his name's Avi. He was a music major that he got a scholarship to go to the University of Berkeley. Cal State Berkeley.
Okay.
But the one in Boston, that's a music school.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
And so he's a percussion. He went in for percussion, but he's also producer and songwriter. He makes his own music.
Yeah.
And he got permission from his parents to make his own music studio in their shed that they had.
Oh, nice.
And so I helped him, put it together like one summer. This was the year we graduated.
Yeah.
And so I remember he was putting it all together, and he had everything. He got his laptop set up, or we had a whole computer set up for Ableton, I think was the production he was using.
Yep.
And he's like, yo, why don't you come in and like break in the booth? I was like, he got the soundproof, and I was like, all right, man, all right, give me a beat, and we'll write something to it. And then it took like a little while.
I'm gonna need that track. AJ, where's that at?
We ain't releasing that, bro.
He's like, nah, that's in the vault.
It may or may not be on SoundCloud still, but don't go looking for it, okay?
Yeah, go look for that. You know what I'm saying? If you find that, go ahead and message up. No,
Yeah, to be honest, it wasn't terrible.
yeah, I feel
It wasn't. It took a minute to kind of like understand the musicality of like getting onto a beat, but
Yeah.
to be honest, I remember like that awkwardness of trying to like get my voice to match the tempo of the music. I'm not a musician by trade at all.
Right.
But later on in life, being in the fitness industry, having to apply music to the group classes that I'm teaching and learning how to use one of these microphones.
That's right.
I got to be able to match the tempo of the beat so I could deliver whatever it is I'm trying to say. or
cadence,
instruct
the
class.
octave, how you talking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So to be honest, like those, I didn't really spend a lot of time doing. I made one song.
Right.
Yeah, like
Having some fun with it.
Yeah, but I remember like how difficult it was to like shit, like not even get to the beat on time. So like, that definitely helped me later on in life.
That's what's up, man. Yeah. So, okay, so you're doing construction. You said you did for 4 years. During this time, you're boxing now. It sounds like
I got into it probably like a year into doing construction.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I was gaining weight. I was with the boys. I was, every morning was, drinking 7-Eleven coffee, eating donuts, and eating burgers for lunch, and drinking beers on the weekends. And
right.
Just
living
doing the
life.
whole.
You making money now?
Doing the whole blue collar thing. None of my homies are making money, so I'm not making a crazy amount of money, but I was making money. So like the money that I did have, like I would spend it, on the weekends going out.
Yeah.
And so it was. I felt pretty sluggish and gross.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I gotta do something, man.
Yeah,
and then my boy Leon hit me up, and I ended up training over there for a little bit. And then
and that's what this is Box and Burn, you said?
This was Iron.
Iron, that's right. Okay.
Prior to him creating Gloveworks,
Gloveworks, that's
he had
what I was
his
thinking.
I forgot the name of it. I think it was ABA. It was his last name. And then the Boxing Academy is what we called it. And trained there for, sporadically in and out. Then the offspring of that, he had two trainers, Kevin and Tony, that opened up their own spot, and that was closer to me. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out over here, and train with these guys. It's right down the street from me.
Right.
And that was the first time a boxing gym ever opened up in my neighborhood. Like
Right.
they weren't around.
Yeah.
And granted, it was like group classes. It was catered to a group class audience.
Right.
And they had fighters that were teaching there and that were training out of there. And this is the building shut down since then. I don't know where their other location is. I haven't been there in years, but that was my introduction to being involved in boxing more often, because I got a membership. I showed up every day, and there was sparring there. There was classes to take where you could hit mitts with the trainers, and the trainers were really good trainers. They were successful boxers in their own walk of life, and granted, after a couple of years, people leave and
transitions naturally happen.
Yeah, so the original team that was there, man, there was some really talented boxers there at one point.
Okay, are there any, and whether you name them or not, are there any that particularly inspired you, and in what way?
Yeah, there was a former world champion there. He's in the Hall of Fame now. His name is Wayne McCulloch. He's from Ireland.
Yeah.
I know the name. I was like, oh man, I was like, yo, this is the guy who fought.
He was there.
Yeah, he was
That's
there. He was
crazy.
teaching classes and training clients and training his fighters. I was like, now he's in Vegas, so I see him every now and then. And sometimes the guys from the gyms around here end up sparring some of his guys, and I see him every now and then, man. Or I'll see him at the fight somewhere, and I get to see my boy Wayne. But it's the first time I got to be around a serious high caliber boxer and work alongside him, or even hit the pads with him. And he didn't really spend time with me when I'm in there sparring and stuff, but I got to train with them, and to me that was everything.
Just being able to observe stuff like that, man.
Just a soak up game to watch him interact with people was something that was yo, you don't get this at every gym.
Yeah.
This is a Hall of Fame boxer right here.
That's right.
This guy made it to the tippity tip top
Right.
of boxing. That I was oh man,
Yeah. What were some of your takeaways from him, just like as a coach?
The tenacity of being, one of those come forward boxers, and like I think to this day nobody's ever knocked him out.
Right.
And he fought the best of the best in his division,
Yeah.
and like that, the way he styled, he's a very volume.
Just his style.
Come forward fighter, and like I think that's why he garnered a lot of respect from the Mexican audience,
Right.
Because he fought the same way that the typical Mexican style would be: come
Yeah.
forward, work the body, a lot of short punches. So he's right there, close enough to land them, and he's gonna throw them.
Right. Right. That's sick, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start training out of this spot. Talk to me a little bit about, let's take it forward into like you actually becoming the coach that we now know today, but what
Right.
was the beginning of that journey like? How was it for you? Talk a little bit about that time, just like starting to become a coach.
Yeah, so I became a coach because I didn't have anything better to do. Right. So I was doing construction at the time, and I was boxing. So I had I gave myself a rigorous schedule. Like, dude, I have dreams of becoming an amateur boxer at this point. I'm training every day. I've got to dabble in some sparring because, like, I could, I'm young enough to do this. And, like, I started late.
Yeah.
Yeah,
how old are you at this time?
Like 19, 20.
Oh, okay.
So
fully prime mode. You're ready to
rock.
I
was like, I was just an athlete in high school. Like, I'm ready to go. So I was like, trying to like lay off the booze, and like, all the homies on the construction side are in their 30s, and I'm always the youngest guy on the site.
Right.
So I just walked a different path. I got up really early. I would run, 3 to 5 miles, like at least 3 or 5 days a week.
Right.
Before I'd go into the job site at 8 o'clock, and luckily everything was local.
Yeah.
And then after I was done at 4 or 5 o'clock at the construction site, I would go home, eat something, and I would make it to the gym by 6:37, and I would be training until like 8:39.
Yeah.
Whether I was taking a class or just hitting the bag on my own or sparring, I was able to go in and do that, and I did that consecutively for the better part of a year, a year and a half, and then while I was sparring, an old injury came back to haunt me. I dislocated my shoulder a bunch when I was playing football.
Oh, snap.
So I actually I ran track because of this injury, because I couldn't play football my junior year.
Right.
So I tore my labrum actually from sparring. Yeah, I hit somebody at the top of their head, and like it was an older dude, and like so he had a hard ass head. Something, man, it's like old dudes got hard ass heads. So I cracked him. I think pink, and I hit him kind of awkward, and like it bounced off the top of his head. He kind of rattled, and like my shoulder just like popped out and stayed out.
Wow.
And so I'm sparring the rest of the round with one arm like this, and I'm still green at the time, so I'm like in there looking stupid.
Right.
And then my boy Rashad Holloway, who was he was a pretty big name in boxing at the time.
Yeah.
It still is, like, if you ask around, like, people who trained at Wild Card back in, like, the heyday with Manny Pacquiao, Miguel Cotto, he was the chief sparring partner for most of those guys in the welterweight division, and he was a national champ from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah, first gym I ever went to was Manny's.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I was there for, like, Brian Valoria when he was sparring and stuff like that, but that was I got a chance to witness some of that stuff.
That era was special, man. There was, like, talent in there like crazy. James Toney was beating the shit out of people there all the time, and I never trained at Wild Card. But, again, like, if you're in boxing at all, like, it's a small world.
Yeah.
So Rashad saw me. He's like, yo, what happened to you, bro? I was like, man, my shoulder, bro. Like, it popped out, and, like, it just feels fucked up. And he was like, oh, you tore your labrum. I was like, first off, what's a labrum?
Right.
So, like, second, like, how do you know? Like it's the same shit I had, bro. Trust me, you're going to have to get surgery. And he's, like, spitting at me. I'm like, yo, Rashad, bro, like, you're freaking me out.
Yeah.
Listen, I popped my shoulder out multiple times. It's going to be fine. It wasn't fine.
Right.
So I had to get a surgery. I had to go do an MRI, and at the time, I still had my mother's insurance. Shout out to my mom. I had insurance.
Shout out to moms,
my
man.
mom, she I had that insurance. Don't got it no more. So, so I went to the doctor, got the MRI. Like, you're gonna need surgery to slap tear. So there's a tear on multiple parts of your labrum, and the labrum's a part of your shoulder that you do need to keep the shoulder in the socket.
Yeah.
And you have labrums, like, you have 4 of them. You got 2 in your shoulders, you got 2 in your hips.
Right.
And these are the joints that move a lot, and they're very susceptible to injury. And over time, your labrum just takes a beating, especially if you're playing sports where you got to throw punches.
For sure.
Or absorb impact or deliver impact like football.
Yeah.
So from that injury, I get the surgery. I can't work construction. I'm broke. I'm at my mom's house, and I'm trying to figure life out. I briefly became like a club promoter, like 2 or 3 days a week.
Okay.
At some spots over here, and that's kind of how I started like building a little bit of an Instagram. Before boxing was I was like, hey, come to this club at this night. I'm 21 now at the time, and I'm like trying to get you know, college girls and girls that are like 21 and up, like from all walks of life to, you know, make it out to this venue. And I would like, you know, hit them up on Instagram, like do that whole thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, from that, I was like, dude, this isn't what I want to do.
Right.
And so I asked the gym, because I was like, you know, only working, 2 or 3 nights a week at the club, not doing construction. My shoulder's still a little messed up. So I'm in the gym, like training with one arm. And I asked the owners, I'm like, hey, like, is there any way I could get a job here? Like, I'm here all the time, and I really can't afford the membership.
Right,
you know,
right.
at least not anymore for the time being. So, like, is there anything we could do? Like, I could, like, clean the gym. I could come in and, like, work, like, the front desk or something. So I had no intention of being a trainer.
Right. Okay. You were just trying to work, get a free membership, just enjoy the gym.
Yeah, like,
right.
I was like, what weight do I hold? Like, when there's all these, like, guys who were in the Olympics for boxing, guys who were in the Hall of Fame for boxing, and, like, they have competitive boxers that were, like, deep in the amateurs, that are, like, turning pro, that are pro, and they're all training here.
Right.
And who am I to come in and, you know, work alongside them and teach class with them and have a sense of authority over people that are trying to learn boxing? I'm still trying to learn boxing.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
I'm like, and they were like, well, do you know how to hold mitts? I'm like, bro, I barely know how to throw like a 1-2. Like,
Right.
I mean, I have an idea what I'm doing. Like, I'm, you know, relatively like athletic, so I get by with the boxing. I'm still green at the time.
Right.
I was like, no. I was like, I don't even have it. I barely own a pair of gloves. You want me to get a pair of mitts?
Right.
And so that's when I got my introduction to being a trainer, because they were like, all right, well, you know, if you figure out how to hold the mitts a little bit, you can help us out by assisting in the classes, because, you know, the way that they formatted their classes is they have stations. So there's a station where you get to hit the mitts, and you do it with the trainers. And I was like, oh, okay. So 2 weeks later, they put me in the ring with one of them, and they hit both owners actually hit the mitts with me, and they're both big guys. You know,
Right.
One was a light heavyweight, the other was the same size, and man, they beat the shit out of my shoulders. Like, fuck, bro. And I got like a little bit of practice,
Yep.
but not enough. And they worked with me.
Right.
They gave me a shot. They're like, yeah, just come in, help us out with the class, and you know, we'll go from there.
That's crazy.
That's how I got the introduction of being a boxing trainer.
Yeah, it's very similar to mine, man. I was working out at a gym that my lady had found, right? And I didn't even want to go to this spot. And you know, I'm in there working out, and I'm working at another spot in Pasadena. Well, yeah, who will remain nameless at this point.
All right.
But I was working there, and I kept talking to the owners. I was like, yeah, man, I wish they would do this. They were throwing like 21 punch combinations and stuff in class, just some craziness, right? So, anyways, I would have these conversations. Finally, he's like, he's like, man, you should come, just train. He was like, I'll throw you clients.
Yeah.
And I just started, like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just like you, still learning a lot of boxing.
Yeah, that's
you know
how
what I
it
mean? I've been
goes,
doing
man.
it. Yeah, but that's how it goes, right? It's that
Yeah.
one owner that's like, I'll give you a shot.
Yeah.
Right, and make it happen. So, do you remember, like, your first client?
Yeah.
Talk to me
I
a little
do,
bit
man.
about
It was
that.
an older dude. He would take classes, and all he wanted to do was, get like a half hour on the mitts. Again, he was like in his 60s or 70s. His name was Paul. Cool dude, man. And like, he was like, yeah, man, I want to train with you. He was eager. And like, I think because I had taught like at least for a month or two, like helping out in the classes, like every day, I was there like 5-6 days a week, helping out, just assisting, being there. The other guys that were more seasoned trainers were leading the class, and I was just assisting.
Right.
And I had a couple friends that like I had brought to the gym that were taking the classes and were helping me like kind of, get more rounds in on the mitts. And I was just holding the mitts, doing the basics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this guy wants to train with me. So I asked the owner, I was like, hey, man, like, how does this work?
Right.
This guy wants to train with
How
me.
do I turn him into a client?
Yeah. He asked me to train with him. Like, what do I tell him? I was like, well, tell him that, if you only want to do it for a half hour, we charge, like $50. No, it was like $40 for a half hour just hitting mitts. And like at the time, I'm like, $40? I'm like, yo, for a half hour?
You're like, I'm down.
Dude, I was getting paid like $20 an hour to like be a construction worker. And like, I was an apprentice carpenter. I had my whole tool belt. I had a hard hat. I had my whole thing. And like,
Right, you start mathing, huh? You're like, okay,
I'm like, dude,
if I can do a few of these.
if I do like 4 or 5 of these a day, I'm making the same amount I was doing 8-hour days on the construction site. And I was like, oh man, I was like, say less. So I started training him like 2 to 3 times a week. Then it went from him to like other people that were hitting me up for training, because like I was doing some pad work, I would post it on my Instagram, and it wasn't anything like amazing.
Right.
But you know, people would see it and they would want to do it. And at the time, like, man, like I look back at like some like early videos from when I was first training people, and I'm still green at the time as a boxer. Like I'm trying to figure this whole thing out too, and I still got aspirations of competing. And so I'm still in there learning. I'm recovering from a surgery, and I'm like, all right, man, like this is a ticket. I could do this all day. It's fun. I get to hang around the gym.
Yeah.
And I had no aspirations of being a trainer or having like a form of authority over people as their coach or as their trainer. But I really didn't have a choice. Like people were asking for it, and I was like, I asked all the other guys, I was like, hey, how do you guys do this? Like, I don't know how to like, you know, tell people like to like how much to charge them. I don't even know where to start. Like,
Right.
like,
What is the process?
Yeah.
No, you touched on something, man. I thought it was super valuable. Like, I think most coaches go through a period of time where they're like, I don't see myself as that coach. I don't know if I'm ready for that coach. Like, and I think we'd call that imposter syndrome, right? We all go through that period of time. I know I went through it. When for you did you make that leap over though, where you were kind of like, I don't know if I want to be the coach, have authority over people. I don't know if I can tell you whatever, to like nah, like my price is now worth it. In fact, I probably could go more. Like where was that transition?
I mean, as far as imposter syndrome goes, I still struggle with that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Talk about it.
I still struggle with that. You know, I mean, now, like, I work corners for fighters in the pro ranks and in the amateurs, and, you know, I'm assisting in the corner. I did have to work a corner, like, by myself, so I was, like, you know, the head coach there, but it was only because his coach couldn't be there.
Right.
He had to work a corner the same night, and I'm like, damn, man, all right, well, I work your corners as the assistant, so, like, you know, who else are you going to trust, bro? And you don't got to pay me, because
right.
I'm here to soak up game, too, you know, like, I have aspirations of, like, you know, being a part of this.
Cornering is such a whole different experience,
Man.
right? Like, you think it's like, from when you watch a fight, and then but being in a corner is a whole different experience. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good, man, because it is. It's
that.
true. I still struggle with imposter syndrome. You know, I don't have the accolades of any of my colleagues that I even started with.
Right.
And whether it's in the fitness space or it's as a boxing trainer, boxing coach, a cornerman, whatever accolades like these other guys have, I don't.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's difficult. I don't know what it is that keeps me in the game, but people ask me to train them. People ask me, you know, fighters and clients, fitness enthusiasts alike, you know, ask for my services as a coach, as a trainer. So I would say that like the imposter syndrome kind of goes away when people are genuinely asking you.
Right.
So you're not like soliciting them for your services. They're asking you.
Right.
They're looking for you because you have a talent in the space, and they want you to be a part of it with them. And whether it's a fighter looking to improve their skills in the gym, or whether it's a fighter looking to get some advice in a corner, or whether it's a client who's trying to lose weight, put on muscle, whatever it is, you know, I think what really got me was probably getting my first fitness certification. That I started to feel really confident, you know, putting together, you know, some programs for people that were like buying packages to train with me one-on-one, and to lead classes. Having a sense of authority, like, yo, you're going to lead your first class, so that means you're going to demonstrate the exercises. You're going to, you know, pretty much work the room and be a leader in this room.
Right.
And you have assistant trainers. You have a busy class, so you got to lead it.
Yeah.
And so when you kind of get put in that situation, you have no choice but to, you know, either, you know, fold up or or like walk the walk. So man, I got a lot of really good opportunities. So, you know, I think without the community of people, whether it's fighters or clients in the fitness space, really helped me kind of get over that imposter syndrome.
Yeah, and you said something that, like, a couple of things actually, gems in there, right? So I think the one thing you said was like, it's all about the feedback will tell you, right? If you're doing something right, they're gonna come looking for you.
Yeah,
they're gonna sign up. You know, they're gonna sign those, and they're gonna sign for those private sessions, and or they're gonna stay with you for a long time. You know what I mean? Like, I have a client I'm with right now. I've been with him through 4 different locations and 3 different companies. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, but you just have those, and that feedback comes when you're doing things right. The next thing you said was, education. You were educating yourself. You
Yeah.
got you like, I got to go get a certification.
Yep.
I just got recertified. Just got my NASM recertified.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Man, mine expired like
Yeah,
years
right.
ago, bro.
I had to
And
do
I
it.
failed that test like twice, bro. Like,
It's
what-
a hard test. Right?
I was like, man, I was like yesterday years old, finding out like how to actually pronounce the word hypertrophy. Bro.
Right.
I was like, yo, I don't even know how to. I was like, I was looking at, I was like supinated. Oh, supinated.
right.
Oh man, like again, I'm a blue collar dude, bro. I don't have like that much like formal education, so
Yeah.
it's difficult to kind of understand kinesiology from a trainer standpoint. I really struggled with it. So by the time I got my first certification and I started doing a bunch of like attending a bunch of seminars that all other trainers were doing, I was like, damn, I'm already like 2 years into the game being a trainer. And I'm not, I'm in the fitness space.
Right.
I train clients, so it's like, all right, I got to really like,
Dial it
sharpen
in a
up my
little bit.
skills. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then the other thing you said was about communication.
Yep.
And I don't know if you use those words particularly, but one thing I know just from my time, and I'm sure you feel the same way, the best fighters don't always make the best coaches.
Ooh. I didn't say it, bro. Cause
Would you agree or would you disagree with that?
No, I definitely agree with that.
The best fight. I know some really.
Don't come for me, y'all, but yeah, I agree with that.
Listen, you're gonna think it applies to you or you don't. I didn't say names. I'm just saying. I've met really great fighters, but they just couldn't coach, and some of them just didn't even want to be coaches, right? They just, and then I've met coaches that were decent scrappers,
Yeah.
but they were amazing coaches. And for me, it's always been, how well do you communicate? How well do you teach somebody? How do they understand what you're telling them? Like, what would you chime in on that and say, like, what is your experience?
Let me ask
in
you
that?
this: have you ever seen Mike Krzyzewski in the layup line dunking a basketball?
No.
All right, there you go. Like
Right.
I'm telling you, like there's people that were meant to be coaches. I feel like,
right.
and I think it is helpful to not be the star athlete in any sport that you are like, aspire to play in or take further beyond just like playing recreationally.
Right.
And I think because I didn't have an innate talent like some of the other peers that I was with in the sport of boxing, I was able to like really, lock in with the passion because there's no real reason for me to be here.
Right.
Like I'm brand new to this still. I don't have the accolades. I didn't like most athletes that are professionals in this. Like they've been doing this since they were like 9, 10 years old. At the
Sometimes
very least, 5
right?
years old. Like one of the kids I train, like he's ready to turn pro now. He's been fighting since he was like 6.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, he had like 30 fights before he was even 10.
That's what I'm saying. Some people don't realize how deep that goes with some people. I met some people that were like, yeah, I was 5, but like the way that they think about life is different than you. You know what I mean? Because I didn't grow up like that.
Nah.
Right.
So I would say that there's some people that were meant to be coaches, and I think the sooner you kind of get to that, whether the catalyst to you getting to wearing the coaching or training hat is an injury or it's an unsuccessful mission to, take it to the next level to wherever you finished at. At some point, you got to hang up the cleats, you got to hang up the jersey, you got to hang up the gloves, and you can be like, all right, I'm going to be a coach.
Right.
And, I think that most, really successful athletes at any capacity, they might not be the best, coaches.
Yeah.
But, I'm not saying that it doesn't help. Like, obviously, being a high-level athlete, that's always going to be helpful. It's always going to be something that
experience. Experience is a bit
You've been there.
teacher.
So, because it's important. Like, most people, especially in the fighting space, like, they don't want to train Muay Thai with somebody who's never done it before.
Exactly.
So I get that. And that's why I still deal with imposter syndrome myself. Like, I'm not somebody who, like, walks around like, yo, I know what I'm talking about, da-da-da-da-da. I'm just, like, from an analytics standpoint, I'm like, at the very least, like the basics, nobody's above it.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of people like that are not the best athletes or the most gifted athletes tend to, spot out what these athletes from all capacities need to improve.
Right.
Because they have to do it within themselves. You have to look in the mirror like, yo, like, I got to line up against this dude he's getting recruited by USC. He's getting recruited by Florida, and we got to play him tomorrow, and I got to be on an island with this kid.
Right.
All
day.
What am I going to do to get the edge against a player or an athlete like this? Or I got to spar some dude who's the national champ, and he's I got to spar a guy who's got a world title right now, man. He's gonna fight somebody.
Right.
Oh man, I got to spar this dude 5 rounds tomorrow.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do, bro?
Man,
So
first time I got my ass beat, it was a dude that was semi-pro. Wasn't even a pro yet. He was piecing me up. I was like, but that's but like to your point, experience is such a valuable teacher. That is where fighters, and that's why like being around fighters, like you said, like is so valuable. You know what I mean? And so I imagine a big part of your growth was really just, like you said, soaking up that game from just being around them, listening to the stories.
Yeah.
What do they even think about? Right? Like, okay, that's what you're thinking through. Okay, let me start thinking through that stuff. Right? So that's an interesting part of the journey. You know. So one of the cool things that you also got to do, obviously, again, let me take it back. So I told you before, I don't know if we were on air yet or not, but first time I met you was out in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
You know, I was at Box Union, and I was there for a Hickso event.
Yeah.
You know, and what's crazy is because I just like found out about you, right? So I just started seeing your mitt work, and you know, truth be told, I'm looking at your mitts because I got to get my mitt game right. I think the cool thing about that though, man, was like, I think the Instagram like coach was kind of really just popping off. Like you were really at the forefront of that. And so to meet you in person, and you were super humble at that moment, like just, you know, willing to introduce yourself. We kind of had a quick chat, nothing like extensive. Yeah. But I think, you know, that was for me, that's what actually brought me out to the West Side was a moment like that. I was like, yo, these coaches like AJ are out here. And so I ended up going out to the West Side. But you had some time with Rumble at that time. I think it was, I don't know if you were with Rumble at that time yet.
No, not yet.
Right.
I think I may or may not have like been reached out to by them.
Okay.
Already. Yeah.
But so take me into that. So obviously you're doing your thing. You were a promoter. You're now, you know, throwing some mitt work up on Instagrams, looking sick, getting a little bit more of a following, I imagine. Yeah. Rumble reaches out. Can you take me through and take us through just what that process was like from going to like, you know, one gym and one style of gym into this more boutique style fitness? Yeah. What was that transition like for you, and how did you kind of navigate that?
So at the time, there weren't any, as far as I knew of, any concepts for boxing in the fitness space that were boxing inspired, and this is our concept, besides the ones that I had either trained at on the West Side of LA. 'Cause like I said, like there weren't any around. Right. So Boxing Burn, where I worked at, Glove Works was a thing already with my boy Leon. These were like the only spaces that had boxing as like, if you want a membership at this place, like our specialty is boxing. Right. Obviously, we got other pieces of equipment. We got other trainers with different, you know, backgrounds, and you're going to get a really good workout here, but we're boxing. Like, this is a boxing gym. Right. We have a ring in here. We got heavy bags. We got trainers holding mitts. This is a boxing gym. Right. Or, you know, a boxing-inspired workout that you're going to do. Yeah. And Rumble was like making a lot of noise at the time because they had a lot of big-name investors. They were making a bunch of noise in New York. Right. And is
that where they originated from? New York.
Okay. New York. Rumble Boxing, founded by my boy Noah Neiman.
That's right.
And man, my boy Joe Ferraro, he hit me up on Instagram, you know, because at the time, like, you know, my Instagram was popping like that, and like they would just like people would hit me up with business opportunities, and this was the first time somebody from the New York market had reached out. Right. And I'm like, oh man, like this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, you're in LA at this time.
Yeah, I was doing my own concept with my boy Brian, and you know, we were ready. We were taking on like potential investors to open up our own space. Okay. And so it was like, yo, I'm sorry, man. Like, I appreciate you reaching out. This is really cool, but I don't think this is for me. And I saw the concept, and I was like, it's a little too fluffy for what I do. You know, I'm a blue collar guy. I'm around like serious fighters. I train, you know, people on the mitts. Like I never put on a microphone and taught a group fitness concept because I'm aligning them at the time, which some people don't still. I don't understand, but like I align them with, you know, Soul Cycle, Berries, Orange Theory. These are group fitness concepts.
Right, right. This is really boutique fitness. When you think of those names, that's what you're thinking of, and that's kind of where you're seeing them kind of carve their lane out.
So I was like, that's not my space. Like I don't do that. And I know you guys are reaching out to me because you have a studio in mind of opening up in LA. Right. And I was like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. And it's funny, like where the studio is now, like down the street is a property like me and a couple former business partners were looking into to opening up a space of our own. And the concept would have been similar to what you see at Gloveworks and Boxer, because that's just where I came from and
Right.
where we came from.
Right.
And so yeah, they, you know, by the time like that idea kind of, you know, dissolved for my own concept, I got reached out to again, but this time by their founder, Eugene Rem,
Okay.
who also owns the Catch restaurants.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, who is this dude? And I look, Googling him. I was like, oh, this is a serious dude. And like, obviously he's got guys like, you know, Justin Bieber investing in the concept, and like the place is, again, it's booming.
Right.
And so I got
What year is this, by the way?
This is 2018.
2018. Okay,
2018.
Cool. That sounds about right.
So they opened in 2017, and then 2018 was when they reached out to me. And then the second time I got reached out to by them, my concept for a gym had already dissolved, and I was going to have to start from scratch again. Right. And so I was like, I mean, you're offering something that's like spectacular. And I tried my best to be like, yeah, I guess that date works. And they hit me up again.
I'll play nonchalant.
Yeah, but they were like, yeah, we'll fly you out. We'll put you up. Come check out the gym. Just, you know, see what we're about and see if it's a good fit for you, because we're looking for trainers to open up our LA location.
Had you been to New York before this? Never. So,
I never ventured off further than like Colorado.
right.
I'd barely been on like less than like a handful of flights that I could count on my hand.
Right.
I'd never been on a plane for longer than an hour and a half.
Right. I feel you.
So I'm like, oh man, I gotta get on. How long is that even, that plane ride? Now I've done it so many times I can't even count. You know, going from New York to LA,
Now
New
you're
York,
reading
LA.
books on the way.
Yeah,
all
man.
types of stuff, right? Yeah.
Man, so I was nervous, and it was cold at the time. It was December 2018. I ended up over there, and I got introduced, and like I got to my hotel, and my boy Joe Ferrar was a point man, and he's like, yeah, I got to teach a class at 8:30 p.m. in Chelsea, New York. I'm like, who takes a class at 8:30 p.m. in the middle of winter?
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I'll be there at like 9:30 because we're going to go grab dinner after and, you know, chop it up and see, you know, what the whole thing's about, because I'm still kind of brand new. Don't know anything about group fitness, and they're trying to bring me on. I'm thinking at the time that they're trying to bring me on as like a consultant for the market or a consultant for the trainers they're going to hire,
Right.
to make them more authentic to boxing, because they're trying to, like, you know, gain some respect in the space as a boxing inspired concept.
Yep.
I didn't think I was going to get hired as a trainer because I'm not a group fitness instructor.
Right.
So I see the class empty out because I went to my hotel, put all my stuff down, showered, grabbed something real quick to eat, and then headed over to the studio because it was like, you know, stone's throw away from me, and I'd never been in New York, so I walked it.
Right.
And it was cold.
Right.
And I got to the studio. I told the front desk, hey, is Joe here? Like, yeah, he's finishing class. Okay. I said, cool. I sit down on the bleachers, and, you know, maybe like 5 minutes go by. Then all of a sudden, music's blasting out the speakers. I'm like, what's going on? And then
Right.
I'd never been to any group fitness studios
Right.
before. I'd
They're
never
hitting
been
you
to
with the
Barry's,
experience right now,
Never
right?
been to a Soul Cycle. I had no idea what
Same.
this.
You know, and to any Soul Cycle instructor who may happen to, no offense, I've just never been to a Soul Cycle.
Yeah.
To this day, I've been to cycling.
Okay. I've been to a bunch of their
I've been to
classes now.
cycling. I've been to.
I did my homework because these people are like, you know, phenomenal performers. With
Yeah, no,
teaching group fitness.
I know some of the cycling
Yep.
classes that, and their instructors, man, amazing coaching and you know, experiences that they provide for sure. Yeah, I just never got around, but I've been to like Edge and some of these other like cycle spots. But anyways,
anyways, at the time, I had no idea what this whole thing was even about. I'm like, a boxing concept where there's no mitts, there's no ring. I didn't understand it. So the class empties out, and like 40, 50 just like gorgeous women pour out of that gym.
Heat pours out of
and
there.
I'm like, oh, what? I was like, my boy's he's got baddies walking out. He's like saying he's taking pictures with them, and I'm like, this is my first time meeting my boy.
Right.
And he doesn't work for the company anymore, but he was like the guy. You know, I was like,
Right.
oh man, this is crazy. Like this dude's like really doing something out
Right.
here. And so that was cool. I got to see like that whole part of it. I'm like, man, this is like that's a clientele you want to train, bro.
Right.
I want to be a part of this.
Yeah,
So
let's get some money.
I didn't even take the class. I just saw who was leaving the class. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool.
Right.
And so anyways, I went to dinner with him. Like, you know, they took me out. They showed me around. And then the next day, I got to take my first class at 7 a.m.
Okay.
And this is my first time ever being in a group fitness concept. So I get in there, I bring my gloves. I'm like shadow boxing because I'm starting off like, you know, there's two sides of the room. There's the bench floor side where there's dumbbells and a bench, and there's you know, it's just
the bag side.
Yeah, strength side, and then there's the bag side where you're doing the boxing.
Right.
I'm on the boxing side, and right next to me is my boy Joe. and their instructor goes on stage and it's a girl. So I never taken a boxing class with a girl at this point.
Right.
And
so everything is new right now.
and then I'm looking at the room fill up, and not one spot is empty.
Right.
Every single spot is taken, and the gym's still open to this day, and there's 60 spots in there. So the environment is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And this is 7 a.m. in New York. I'm still new to this city. I've never been here before. And then the lights go down, and she's on the microphone just commanding the room in a way I've never seen being done before. And then I remember the first time the music dropped, she said 3, 2, 1, boom, light switch, and everybody synchronized moving to some jumping jacks with a hi-hat on beat. I'm like, oh, everybody's doing this together. Like, and now right from that moment, I was like, oh yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, they sold you.
Yeah,
They sold you.
I was like, I want to do that. That
It's
sounds
happened
like
to us
fun.
all. I feel that.
Yep.
I
So
feel
that was
man.
cool to like see a community of people that really weren't boxers, but move all together in sequence and cadence, and have an instructor with a lot of personality deliver a class like that. I had never experienced before.
Right.
So I was like, when do we open LA? I want to do this. And they, like, well, let's try you out on the microphone. Let's see if it's a good fit. And again, I never done group fitness. I was like, cool, give me the microphone. I was like, all right. This is like 2 days into it. Like my boy's like, yeah. So the studio's closed. It's late at night. He gives me a microphone. I was like, where do I put this? And I had the microphone here. He's
Right,
like,
you're trying to figure it all out.
I'm trying to see what this job is. I still have no idea. I'm still like super green to this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, which buttons do I press? All right. I was like, is this mic on? Like, yeah, switch this on. I'm like, hello? I don't even know how to use a microphone.
Right.
And so it was terrible.
Yeah.
Even like, man, my first, like, I ended up getting the job.
Yeah, for sure.
So I got hired there with another colleague, and we were going to open up the LA studio. And we got to spend, it was supposed to be 2 months there. After we got the job, we put together the whole team, auditioned everybody, and they got 2 of us to live in New York. They put us up. They let us get on schedule with like at least 5 classes to get our feet wet. And I was I think I was I was the first trainer they hired for the LA team.
Yeah.
And being a founding trainer for that location was cool because I got to live in New York for 6 months.
So it sounds like they had a really, and it makes a lot of sense to me. I'm from the outside looking in, but it sounds like they had a really extensive onboarding training program for you.
I wouldn't even say that. There was still an incubation period for onboarding trainers. There wasn't even like a pamphlet, I remember at the time. Like it was just whatever the trainers were, because everything was still new.
Right, so
like,
they're still figuring things
maybe
out.
a year into their grand opening for their first location.
Right.
They had a second location by the time I got there, but like that was it.
Right.
And they hadn't really onboarded a group of trainers. They had onboarded like a handful of trainers. There was less than 20 trainers on schedule at the time.
Right.
And then they're bringing on like 2 trainers that were going to open the LA studio. And then they onboarded 2 other girls that were there in the New York studios. And, that was the process, is like that we were the first group that got onboarded as a group.
Yeah.
Everybody else was kind of like, take class, learn, do this, grab the mic, and do what you do at Barry's, do what you do at Soul, do what you do at this concept, because it's the same thing. You have a microphone, but now this is the concept.
Right.
So people transition easier because they were bringing in talent
true.
that already had been working in the space in that town. And whether you take group fitness in LA, whether you take it in Vegas or San Francisco, whatever area you take it in, the New York market's a different beast.
Right.
And being able to learn how to teach group fitness out of that market specifically was a blessing, because the standard is here.
Really? Yeah. See, I've never been to New York.
Yeah,
I've
New
never been,
York
but
standard
I've
for-
heard.
The standard is high, and
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of an influence from like Broadway theater.
Right.
This whole culture of like being on stage and giving a live performance, and like it being so prevalent in that city.
Yeah. But I mean, even anything from like their music, just like hip hop, right?
Yeah.
Like everything about New York is performative. It's loud. It's
Very vibrant.
It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
vibrant.
yeah,
It's just it's a very like creative but like commanding culture in New York,
was
right?
cool.
That I only know that from the people I know from New York. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
that's just how they are. They carry themselves a
Yep.
certain way. So I can see that being the case. You know what I mean?
But regardless, I was aspiring to be like all these other amazing instructors they had already. Every other instructor had years of experience in this space, in this town,
Right.
and I was brand new and I was learning.
and you had to float. You had to swim basically.
bro, I was struggling. I didn't know what I was doing. And, now I've been teaching it for years. I've taught thousands of classes, and like, it's my bread and butter. Like, I love teaching group fitness. It's still fun for me,
Yeah, for sure. That's good. It sounds like a passion, what
Yeah,
I mean?
it's tough to get away from, man. Like, there's no better feeling to me, like, to teach group fitness, man.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. With that being said, so you come back to LA, right? You're now a founding coach. I think one of the things that's always interested me, especially as you kind of talked about, right? Like Rumble, Box Union, Box and Burn, like really they're evolutionary in that they were the bridge between the fighter's gym you had to go to, over in, Lincoln Heights, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know what I mean? Or like, I'm not going to say no names, but, some really like kind of just fitness brands, right? That kind of utilize boxing. But now we're starting to see these companies like bridge the gap and but they're evolving too, right? They're learning a lot. And now you see a lot more coaches kind of like stepping into that space. If you had like advice for some of those coaches that are stepping into that world, we talked a little bit about like the, what do you call it? The imposter syndrome and things of that nature. Cause we know they're pulling coaches from all different modalities into this space. What's some of the advice that you got for coaches stepping into that?
Man, obviously there's coaches that are going to come from the, perspective like, all right, I'm a boxer myself and I see people making money and generating revenue in this space, boutique fitness, and I'm a boxer, a competitive boxer, and I want to be a part of this. There's a level of arrogance that comes with it, I feel like, because I had the same thing, and I was like, dude, why would I respect somebody who doesn't even box? They're over here like, teaching group fitness, boutique fitness. Like, come on, man, like, give me the microphone. And then I had to see like, oh, this isn't an easy job. And I was like,
dude,
okay,
that's so true. Though,
so
man.
like the arrogance I had of like, I'll train the mids. I'm sick with it. I got a little Instagram following. Like, I got abs, I got muscles. Like, I'm gonna do this job.
This is easy work.
I didn't have a respect for that. That ability to, command a room like how these amazing instructors do in all aspects, in all modalities. And vice versa. If you're somebody who's really well-rounded in the fitness space, whether you taught at Equinox, Soul Cycle, Barry's, all these, big name companies, like you can get a certification, you could take the classes, you can aspire to be in these gyms and these concepts, teach their classes, and then come teach a boxing class thinking that it's going to be the same. And it's not. You need to really dive in and do your homework and
dive into the sport.
So really learn the boxing, really be in the gyms, really hit the mitts, really like, train, shadow box, do all of it prior to like, because there's that imposter syndrome that you're going to get. You could be a really good group fitness instructor and have zero boxing skills, and you'll still be able to teach a class, but you're not going to teach as good of a class and offer something valuable to people.
Especially as the coach who can do both.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
like if you're good at fitness and you're good at that boxing thing, especially in that space right there that we come from.
So either one, you come at it from, like, because I came in from like, I sparred, I train all the time. Like, boxing is what I do. I hold the mitts, and like you gotta do your homework, dude. You gotta do your homework and like have respect for all of it. Don't have any arrogance about it at all, because you got to be able to deliver something that's going to be authentic to people.
For sure. You got it. And man, you hit it on the head. I tell people all the time, and for the last company, like if I would have been there, just 2 years later, I wouldn't have even made it through the training program. As they started to accelerate it and condense it, they trained me for like 6 months.
Same.
You know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't have made it.
I wouldn't have made it because I didn't have that like performative aspect of it. And so, I mean, I think you hit it on the head, bro, which is, you have to come into this game, no matter where you're coming from, whether it's you coming from a Soul Cycle or whatever, Barry's, or if you're coming from, the fight side of it, whatever it is, whenever you're moving into that higher level of space, right, where you can make more money, you got to come in with a level of humility because there's definitely something you have to learn, or else you would have already been there.
Yeah, facts.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Even to this day, like there's trainers that, like, I may have surpassed, like I may fill up the room easier than they do. I may have taught in multiple markets compared to them. They stayed in their market when I learned from them. The trainers that were there before me, like, or that taught before me or had years of experience prior to me even grabbing a microphone and teaching to a group fitness concept, I still, like, to this day, give credit to where it's due. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, and I learned from these people.
Yeah.
And same way I learned from the, all the boxers that were at the gym that I first started at. Like, I needed to humble myself and again, I didn't really have anything to work off of for that, when I was a young trainer.
Right.
But like being a seasoned trainer and then going into a new concept was something very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And that was probably harder to do than, you know, the other way around, where I just have to learn how to hold mitts and like, you know, I don't have a microphone. I'm just like, hey, we're going to do this exercise here. This group's going to do that. Boom. It's like a boot camp.
Right.
But when you have a microphone, you got a playlist, you got this, you got that, you got a room full of people, you got first timers, you got people that have been training their whole life.
A lot of moving parts you're in charge of.
Bro, I was tripping. I was like, yo, I gotta be a performer now.
Yeah.
I gotta conduct this microphone and be confident with it, and I don't even know how to use it. I have footage of me like teaching my first handful of classes in New York City when like I taught less than like 50 classes, and it was horrendous. I was like, man, these trainers, these coaches, these group fitness instructors are running circles around me because they understand this concept. They understand like how to work a microphone, how to lead a group with charisma, how to formulate a playlist to get everybody moving in sequence where it's going to be, you know, something that's added to it. There's value to like selecting certain music to deliver your class. And I had no concept of it. I used to just put on Pandora and whatever was on and we would do the workout.
Right.
So,
for sure.
Man, I had to, you know, really humble myself in those, you know, formative months or years to really deliver a group fitness concept.
Yeah. So for coaches that are stepping into that boutique space, what do you think has been some of the keys? And this is an either or question. What are some of the keys that like the most successful coaches you've seen do it and do this thing? Like, what are some of the traits that you notice about them?
Charisma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's either you got it or you don't, in my opinion. And some people, like, they don't have any certifications. They're not even, like, the best athletes, but, man, they know how to work a room.
Right.
And they know how to be, like, the center of attention. They might not even, like, care too much about all the little small details, like picking a good playlist or, you know, delivering to like the, you know, to the room, to whatever concept they have. They just have charisma and people adore them. They love them. And it's something that I almost want to say, like, you can't be taught that.
Right.
You can be taught like all these other little things, but having charisma, that's something that you kind of got to walk in the room already having, or I don't know. I wish I could say, because I've tried, you know, anybody who's brought in new trainers to a group fitness concept and had to onboard them, you can see that like, all right, it's going to be a lot harder of a journey for you because there's certain traits that this person might have that are going to lead them to having early success than you will, but doesn't mean you can't catch up.
Right.
But having charisma is huge, because you have to work the room at the end of the day. You have to politic a little bit.
We're in a business of people.
Yeah. So like, I don't care how bad of a day you're having. Like when these people come in to see you at the gym, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's an entire room or a whole event of people or it's on camera in a digital concept, you have to learn how to work, you know, the room. And you have to deliver with charisma.
Engage.
Yeah, you got to have personality. You got to be somebody that people aspire to be like. And, man, charisma is just a start.
Yeah. I dig that, man. So you also got to do some things on digital platforms. Talk to me a little bit about that, man.
So,
I think the one I know about is Lululemon, was it? Or
Right. So I've dabbled in the digital space now for 3 years. The first introduction I had to doing digital workouts was maybe like 2 years into doing group fitness. I got to audition for a really big company. I'm not going to name them. Sign an NDA for that.
For sure.
You know, luckily, you know, things panned out for me to go a different direction. But you know, I was like, oh man, like there's cameras here. Like I've been teaching group fitness and I'm pretty confident in my performance in a room where it's live, there's people. It's almost like going from theater to acting on the big screen.
Right.
You know, and so I taught I taught group fitness for Rumble for 2 years, and I got auditioned for this company. And then after the pandemic hit in 2020, there was no group fitness to teach because we didn't have any studios to open up for.
Right.
And
especially LA and New York, right?
Our markets got hit hard.
Shut down.
Hey, the government put their foot on our throats and said, "Hey, COVID's happening. You guys can't teach."
Yeah.
Like,
so y'all don't need us, right?
Like, like, y'all don't need me? That's crazy. So everybody lost their job, man.
Yeah.
And like, you know, nobody's special. I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I could sit around and answer emails all day, or I can aspire to, like, you know, enter a digital space. And luckily, opportunities opened because I just happened to have taught so many classes that different people from different walks of life had met me where they brought me in to teach. So I taught. The first job I got on camera was for a company called Sweat Factor.
Okay.
They got bought, and I was like, yeah, I have no experience teaching on camera. I auditioned, you know, for a job to do this, but, you know, I didn't get it. You know, like I have no experience doing this. And I actually did a really good job. Like, I think all the stuff I learned from performing in classes and auditioning on camera for a really big company, going to this smaller company, you know, this isn't something that people do every day.
Right.
And working a camera was, you know, it came natural to me. So again, it was something that I say to everybody is if you don't have charisma, you know, good luck going down this path.
Right.
Just stay in the gym that you're working at, you know, be humble, do your thing. Like, cause if you don't got charisma, this job sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're not going to be amazing at it. And it's going to feel awful.
And the doors aren't going to open.
No.
Right? Yeah.
So luckily it panned out. And I hate to like do it from a place of like arrogance, but like it panned out to like get all these jobs. So I started with a company called Sweat Factor. I got flown out to work for a company called Techno Gym in Italy. That was cool. So I got to do that during the pandemic. I also did a smaller concept for Google. It was an incubation project they were doing, and that lasted for a few months. Then I did on-camera work for Herbalife. I did on-camera work for I forget, dude, but I did a bunch of work. Yeah, and then the most recent projects were Lululemon, Exponential, and that was the most latest project that I got to be a part of, man. So I got flown back out to New York to work for Rumble, but this time on a digital platform with Samir, Lululemon.
Yeah.
And man, yeah, it all comes full circle, you know, being able to do that, because I would watch, you know, my mom do at-home workouts from Beachbody or something.
That's right.
And like I'm like, yo, that's gonna be.
And
me?
now you're that guy,
right?
right?
Like, man, that was cool. So you know,
Yeah,
I think like after working for all these companies and like really getting like, you know, opportunities to even audition for some of the biggest brands out there, you know, like that's something that's its own challenge, and but something that to me like I fell into easier than the group fitness. But without the group fitness and like learning how to perform right there in front of like a group of 60, I wouldn't be able to be on camera for thousands.
Right.
You know?
Right, man. Yeah, I mean, listen, like I was just telling Jess, like, you know, we've met, right? Like throughout the years.
Yep.
But this is the first time we're really sitting down and chatting. And it's so interesting to hear like your story, because, you know, obviously I followed you, so like I said, since I was in, you know, at the gym on the east side.
Yeah, that's love, bro.
Yeah, man. And just to see like your journey is like super inspiring. And that's why I thought it was super important to have you on the show, because you've had such an interesting path, right? Like it started out with this, like, I mean, now I know even more, right? It started out with construction and like, you know, having the injury and then moving into the fitness space and coming from the true boxing world, right? And dealing with your own, you know, imposter syndromes and, you know,
still deal with it.
Still deal with it. And
even
I think
in relationships, dude, I'd be like, man, you sure you want to date me? I don't know. I ain't shit.
Oh, man. It's so, yeah, I think the way I want to just kind of bring this home, man, is just kind of let you just give any advice you can, man. You like myself, you know, we traveled, we taught coaches, we've helped onboard coaches. So if there was like 3 pieces of advice, like just concrete advice for that next potential AJ still coming up, you know what I'm saying? Like what is it?
Put yourself out there. You know, don't be afraid to upload a video to social media. Don't be afraid to audition for a concept that you might not even be ready for. Just be a part of the community in that aspect. So you gotta show up. You can't just be in your living room like, you know, twiddling your thumbs like, yeah, I want to do that. I know people to this day that are clients that are like, oh yeah, you know, I got my NASM, and I'm like, okay, like what are you gonna do with it?
Right.
You got to show up. You got to do something.
Got to execute.
Yeah. So you got to be a part of the community and actually like, you know, try it. And you got to, you know, everybody here knows whether you're auditioning as an actor or you're going in for a job in tech and you're like, you know, you're interviewing with a bunch of other people with the same degree you got and maybe more experience. You got to be there and be at the interview, right?
Yeah.
You can't just like, no, I want to get the job and like not email nobody, not
don't
outreach.
close the door for yourself.
You feel me? So you got to show up. And so like for me, that was just being in the gym.
Right.
Be in the gym. Take every workout, or especially the ones that you want to teach, whether it's yoga, the modality is spin, whether the modality is HIIT. Be at the gym for the trainers that you aspire to be like if you want to be a trainer, and do those workouts.
Right.
Because then from a client's perspective, you can understand, hey, there's a certain reason why I take certain instructors and I have favorite instructors, and you're not the only one.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
like if you have a favorite instructor, it's likely that multiple others have that favorite instructor too. It's for a reason.
Yeah.
And if you want to aspire to be like that, take the workout. Do the workout, show up often, and be the product that, you know, you aspire to be like, and that the company, if they had to be like, yo, this is a star client that we want to put on an ad, like this is the before and afters, be the before and after.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess that's one piece of advice. Second piece of advice would be to get educated.
Right.
Like the more you know, the better. And then third, I would say, I think I touched on it earlier, is be humble, because there's going to be a moment where you got to transition from either doing, you know, what you started in, whether it been years or months, and transition to doing something new, whether it's digital, whether it's group, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's a completely new concept. You have to really like be humble in that you're not an expert in this.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Don't be afraid to be the new guy or girl. Right?
Yeah, or even like as far as like if you're training like serious athletes, like don't be afraid to work for free or be the assistant and soak up game from other coaches that have been doing it longer than you.
Straight up.
I still do that to this day. Like, you know,
up.
some of the best trainers in the city, I'll sit there and like, you know, their fighter hit me up to work with them, and I'll just like listen to whatever they got to say, and I'll watch them work the corner. I'll watch them in sparring. I'll watch them, you know, just have them shadow boxing or hitting the heavy bag, and I'm really soaking up game.
Yeah.
You know, I still do that to this day. So
Right.
you got to be humble and really come at it from a place of, I don't know shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Wanting to learn. I need to learn
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Last question for you. Where do you see big opportunities for coaches, especially in our space, boxing coaches, up in the future? Is there anything like, where do you see the game going kind of in the future a little bit? Is there anything you're seeing on the horizon that coaches should be looking out for?
Man, I mean, it's tough because the market is saturated. There's more gyms opening up now more than ever, and it's going to continue that way, you know, until like that bubble burst. So I don't know. I would say that doesn't really matter because the game it always goes like this.
Ebbs and flows.
It's ups and downs, and there's peaks and valleys, and you know, just authentically, if you're gonna be a trainer, whatever concept it is, whatever modality it is, whatever company you work for, or whether you're independent, have a genuine appreciation for the craft of said modality or sport that you're coaching in, and really like do it whether you, because at the end of the day, like when I realized, I was like, yo, I'm gonna be a trainer because whether I like it or not, whether I wear this coach hat or whether I wear this train, I'm gonna be the client at least. I'm gonna be in the gym all the time because I enjoy doing this. So if you don't enjoy doing it, then
if you wouldn't do it for free, it's going to be a rough run.
It's pointless, you know, because at the end of the day, you're going to run into some really bad situations, whether it's a pandemic or whether, you know, a job like fires you for no reason or some shit. Like, yo, like there's ups and downs in this game, and you got to be able to, you know, adapt to it, and you're not going to adapt if you actually don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's tough to like show up every day when you don't care about it. And I see it every day. People wear it on their sleeve like they're just getting a paycheck.
Right.
They're trainers that are just getting a paycheck, and I'm like, yo, you could fucking work at Google. You got a degree. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, why
like,
are you here?
Yeah, well, like I don't got a choice. I got to be here, you know.
Right.
So I could sit here and have a year where I make, you know, fucking $75K, or I have a year where I'm making like $250 and like or more, and like either way, I'm still gonna be here.
Right.
You know,
This is my world essentially. Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah, I dig that, man. Listen, we're out of time, but
Ooh, it's all good.
I guess I just want to say thank you, bro. You know what I mean? For joining me today. Like, you know,
hey,
like,
well, thank you, my boy Justin. Thank you, everybody who's listening, man. Much love, my boy Jesse in the back. I didn't have to use him. I was like, hey, you know, Joe Rogan got Jamie helping him out in the back.
That's right. One day we're gonna get Jesse there. You know,
I'm like, hey, Jesse, look that up. Hey, Jesse, look that up. I don't know.
Right, we're bankrupt, right?
Up,
like, you know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Maybe we have like a screen of like some like, I don't know, some like crazy YouTube clip or something, or we touch on. I don't know.
That's it. Yeah. We're definitely planning on evolving, man.
Yeah,
you know
man.
what I mean?
Hey, I appreciate you having me though, bro.
Yeah, for sure, man. Like I said, it meant a lot, man. And I've watched your journey. You know what I mean? And like, you know, so I thought it was time to connect. So I was glad to
this
do
is
it on
cool as
camera.
hell. Look at this setup, man.
Yeah,
My boy Justin, bro. He got a whole podcast set up.
Man,
He got these fancy microphones.
Man, we working it. You know what I mean? We're gonna make it happen. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, thank you, bro. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, sir.
Much love, my boy.